Hello and welcome to my channel, Saying Yes to Life. I'm Delisa Renideo and I'm coming to you from my garden here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. And if this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy that you're here. And what I'd like to do is to invite you to just imagine you're sitting here in my garden with me and we're just having a good conversation about how do we handle life? So today I'm going to talk about what is ours to do and what is not ours to do. And we'll find that when we get that sorted out, that we can feel a lot more peace inside. Now, of course, in this changing world, none of us really knows what's going to happen. Although there are people who try to convince you that they know. But some people are predicting wars, natural disasters. Other people talk about government collapse, economic collapse, or what's going to happen with the rise of artificial intelligence. And of course, lately we're hearing about 3-Eye Atlas and wondering what that might be and what that might do. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? There's so many different theories on all of this that can just feel impossible to know what to believe or how to plan for the future. When we don't know what's coming next, it's easy to just feel frozen. And we don't know what decisions to make or whether our choices even matter. Now, we all cope with uncertainty in different ways, but here are some that are quite common. Some people are convinced that just around the corner, we're going to be rescued by a great awakening or a sudden shift in consciousness, or maybe a particular savior is going to come. And some believe that all we really need is a new president. For those who believe their rescue is right around the corner, they may stop taking care of their own lives, their own health, and their relationships right now. And then other people are so filled with anger or fear about the corruption in governments or the greed of the billionaires or the World Economic Forum or you name it, that they spend hours every day following every new headline and sharing their outrage with anyone who will listen. And then still others, many others, retreat into addictions or just distractions like hours and hours on the screen, or depression, and they just feel overwhelmed and unable to cope with daily life. Each of these reactions is understandable. They're all ways of trying to make sense of the uncertainty, or at least to deal with the uncertainty, and to avoid the pain of dealing with just not knowing. But even though they're all different, they share one thing in common. They make us feel powerless. They keep us waiting or worrying instead of living. I'm going to tell you a story about my own life where I was caught up in something like that. When I was 20 years old, I suddenly experienced an extremely painful inflammation in one eye, my left eye. When I made it to the doctor, which wasn't easy because I was out on a fishing boat, the doctor named this inflammation iritis. And he wasn't exaggerating when he described it as a forest fire raging inside my eye. So he prescribed powerful steroid drugs, which eventually did tame that fire. But the doctor warned me that this was a chronic disease and it would return again and again, and that every time it would probably get worse, and eventually I would probably go blind. Well, fortunately, the iritis didn't return for quite a while. But during the next 5 years, inflammation flared up in other parts of my body. Arthritis in my hip made it impossible to get out of bed without help some mornings, and walking was often extremely painful. Wow, those birds are really talking to us today. And after the arthritis, then came severe stomach pain. And sometimes this forced me to just go home in the middle of the day when I was teaching school. And I just couldn't stay through the day because of the pain. And eventually, I started finding blood in my stools, which, of course, really scared me. So, after a big series of medical tests, I went home with a list of diagnoses: gastritis, ulcerative colitis, chronic arthritis, and, of course, then the haunting fear about when the iritis would return. My 26th birthday was really the lowest day of my life. I sat there wondering what kind of life I had ahead of me. What did I even have to live for? Would I just be blind and crippled and in constant pain and having to live in a nursing home before long? In spite of all my visits to the doctors and all the medications that I had taken, things were only getting worse. And then something really big, big in my life happened. And that was what I can only describe, little bug on me, that there must have been an angel on my shoulder again. And this angel whispered a thought that changed everything. If I'm going to get better, I'm going to have to help myself. I'd been turning to the doctor for all these years, the medical system, and there was nothing that they could do to stop this. So if I'm going to get better, I'm going to have to help myself. Well, that one sentence shifted everything. I didn't know exactly what to do, but one thing I did know is that I could start with food. I had been trying various crazy diets to try to lose the weight that I didn't realize at the time was caused by the powerful birth control pills that I'd been taking. And this was back in the early 70s, and the pills were stronger then. I knew some of those diets that I went on had definitely not been healthy. So I made the decision in one moment that from then on, I would just eat for health. And I have continued that for 50 years. I made immediate, obvious changes in my diet at that time, and then I began to read everything I could about nutrition. I also left my unhappy marriage. I left my teaching job. I went to stay with my sister for a while and gave myself the space and time to get grounded and centered and kind of feel out who I am again. And in a remarkably short time, I began to feel well again and stopped taking all the medications. The real turning point wasn't any single diet or supplement or medication. It was the moment I decided to take charge of what I could do instead of waiting for someone else or some system to fix it for me. That time in my life was so powerful that it has instructed my choices ever since. That was a very long time ago. When we shift our focus from what others might do or what might happen next to what can I do right now, something changes inside us. We move from helplessness to empowerment and from paralysis to participation. Even very small practical decisions begin to restore our sense of purpose and balance and power. No matter what happens in the outer world, we can always care for the world that's within us and around us. Physically, we can eat healthy food, we can get some exercise, we can spend time in fresh air and sunlight and give ourselves enough rest. Emotionally and spiritually, we can focus our attention on beauty. We can look at a flower, a bird song, a sunrise. We can nurture our relationships with family and friends. We can take a few minutes each day for grounding and centering, like simple rhythmic breathing and heart coherence or prayer or meditation. And if you have a pet, spend time with them every day for their sake and for yours. When we spend a lot of our time worrying about what might happen next, it drains our energy and our attention. But when we focus on what we can do, our energy begins to return. We feel calmer, we're clearer, more centered. Our physical health improves. We sleep better, and we begin to notice beauty and gratitude returning to our daily lives. And when we see these results, we realize that we are not powerless after all. We are active participants in the shaping of our lives, and that realization changes everything. So when the world feels uncertain, which doesn't it all the time, ask yourself, what can I do? And what is mine to do today? When you're upset about what someone else is doing, you have no control over that. That is not yours to do. Your response to that is what is yours to do. Then do one small thing, something nourishing, something life-giving that is within your power to do. Every loving action, however small, helps to restore your peace, your energy, and your sense of belonging in this world. Because even in uncertain times, saying yes to life begins with the simplest choices that we make every day. So I invite you to be conscious of that as you go through your day. What is mine to do today? What is mine to do? And then let's begin to do it. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will be with you again soon. Thank you so much for joining me.